let's segue into the next
Mm.
section. So we till now we spoke about the problems, and then we looked at the parents' perspective, and then we spoke about the children's perspective, and then we shared some toxic stories uh, that is pervasive in the society. And now we are sort of at the stage where we can look at possible explanations for such things in Indian society. And the first explanation comes from evolution,
Mm.
right? Our society is patriarchal. And why is it so? Because one explanation is because evolution made it so. It made man stronger, and by strength, what comes is man then started to acquire power and status, and marriage was later a tool to bring in status, money, and power, wasn't it? So women, on the other hand, uh, without that strength, like the masculine strength, they started to nurture their offsprings, and they were much more attached to them, and they can take care of their offsprings. I mean, uh, uh, not just human. I think probably in in animal kingdom also, it's probably the same. Um, and then I'm not saying in this context men can't nurture their offsprings. Men can do it, but it's an exception. It's not mainstream, at least.
Mm.
Then the power that everyone tried to acquire, and which made the society patriarchal, that's slowly changing now. I mean, obviously we can see society is transforming into something which is what I call soft power. Soft power is soft power is kind of common to everyone who has at least money and or some sort of um, status in the society. But nevertheless, any sort of power or ego, all these things corrupts everything else. And from that evolution point of view, uh, in living in a patriarchal society has corrupted a lot of thought process in Indians society, and then that probably is one of the reasons why um, we see such behavior when it comes to
See,
marriage.
again, I of course it's is easier on hindsight to term it like patriarchal society and everything. I mean, I'm fully aware that women have not had the best time historically speaking, but successive generations they've just gotten better, and I think it is part of that evolutionary process. And it's not just about, I don't think it's just about power. Power can be like of course that the man essentially want to being that alpha in the pride or whatnot. Like when you look at other mammal behavior, or like if you look at the monkeys and our greater primates, um, it's quite similar, that hierarchical power structure. But when you actually think about the modern world that was built, it it also, with that power actually came a lot of sacrifice to men. This world was built essentially by war, by struggle, by fight, by a lot of fighting, and then you create these modern empires, again built a lot within this quote unquote patriarchal structure, where it has always also been men who have suffered within that structure. So I think more than,
No, this is not a man versus
no,
woman
no, it's
argument, by
not.
the way. I'm just telling one of the
It's
reason
not
why we have such problems in marriage is uh, because the society has developed
Yeah,
in that
but
way.
true.
And as I said, marriage was used as a tool to bring in status, money, and power, which is sort of the problems that still
True,
exist
but
today.
my point is,
So that's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
true. But my point is, it's not something that, like I can fault someone. You know what I mean? Like I can fault, like say a gender, saying that, oh, because it is just in continuum. It was not something that I learned to become patriarchal. You know what I mean? It's not that men were thrust upon.
No, no, I'm telling you, it evolved. It evolved into a patriarchal structure. That definitely cannot
Yes,
be one person's
correct.
problem
And
or
I
one gender's
think,
problem.
like think about it, like that's what I asked my mom. Even when I talked to my mom had a much better life in terms of restrictions than my grandmother. My grandmother was living in even more restrictions than my mother, and naturally, if I eventually have a daughter, she'll be living in a much better structure than my mother.
Exactly. That's what I termed as something transforming into soft power.
Yes, yes.
So as I said, the masculine strength, which was the symbol of power, is changing
Yes.
now. It's much more soft power, and that comes with money and whatnot. Anyway, I think we both are on the same page there. Uh, Next point is education. Uh, this is again, it's a controversial one, or maybe not, but Indian education system has consistently taught children to suppress their feelings. um, I mean, with teachers or with mentors in their life, it's or with parents itself who are teaching uh, much of the knowledge to the children. It's all that one of the things is you suppress your feelings. You don't They don't know how to express emotions. So emotional intelligence is rather non-existent in a curriculum
Like,
from
can
the
you
very young
expound on
age.
that? Can you like in the sense
Like one thing is, people don't know how to behave around the opposite sex, right? I mean, it's not in cities probably, or it is in cities as well. But anyway, you don't know how to behave around the sex. You don't how to, let's just look into eyes and then speak. You're often looking into the feet and then
what?
speaking, and then, or you're looking elsewhere. Yeah, this happens, right? In when you meet whom someone new, for example, if you're trying to make their acquaintance, you're rather having a difficult conversation. Uh, this is very much true in villages and everything.
Probably.
Um, then other thing is, parents don't encourage their children to go out and mingle. Um, Certainly not going to let anyone to bring their girlfriends or boyfriends into their
Yeah.
house, which is sort of the things that you would see in the West, which is allowed. You try to mingle and be part of the
But
society.
does it make it any better though? That's my question. Does that behavior?
Doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah, because
that's again arguable. I'm just telling the education or the system that we live around. It is sort of try to suppress the feelings. So at critical junctures, you don't know how to behave. For example, like the stories that we shared, you don't know how to behave to another person, uh, and then treat them as equal human being. That's not happening. Um, Other thing is, I've read somewhere on the internet that it says that Indians would wait until 30 years of age to have sex, but they won't wait for 30 seconds in the traffic signal junction. It's rather, that's again, I think it's what the system brings. So that could probably be one of the reasons why such toxicity exists in and around marriage.
see, well, that's also, I think it's a strangely I attribute that we had this case study, okay, which is quite interesting. So this same Indian, you take me, who has lived in India for let's say 30 years or 40 years of my life. If I was, let's say, if I moved to the UK, I would wait in the traffic signal. So, but not just like everywhere in the UK, like probably in Reading. But if I went to London, I would be that same person who is waiting to jump that light. I think it's pretty much a population density problem where everybody wants to get everywhere at all times, as opposed to it uh, being a social problem. I think we suffer from the perils of having a lot of people.
No, it's just an example, isn't it? Because again, if you think about it, which is better, waiting in the traffic so that everything moves.
True. Ideally that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the right way to go, which means you might have to improve the infrastructure or whatever. But if I mean, you obviously see people driving on the footpath and whatnot. Considering we have a high population, people don't really care about deaths,
Yeah.
which or any sort of injuries that's caused by such reckless behavior. So again, I was just taking one example. Again, I'm generalizing, which I sort of have to do. Uh, you'll always, I mean, for many people in this country, this might not be relatable, especially people who are grown up in cities. So, but sadly, it's sort of the truth that this exists out there. Right. Another explanation is what I like to call trophy parenting. This is a good one. Parents like to brag about their children in this country. So I think they bring up their children as trophies, and trophy parenting, like, it's they want everything best for their children. So when it comes to the marriage, they choose the best bridegrooms as well.
Mm.
You know what I
Mm.
mean? Um, it's just that they love them too much. Maybe that's the case, but with that, they never make them independent. They always think they're part of their body, as a trophy that they carry around, or they keep them as a 30-year-old pet
Yeah.
in their house or in their life. Yeah, so that's probably one explanation. It is true, isn't it? You would definitely see all these
Yeah,
things.
and I think when they carry them around like a trophy, and when they go out with someone they don't approve of, it's that sense of betrayal that they have. They're like, oh my God, I gave you so much, I put you through this class, that class, and all of that, and this is what you do to me. Find some random person in your class and then like, go out with them. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they create that situation to make children feel that they are
Yeah,
indebted to them for the foods or clothes or the
yeah,
education that they have provided from their hard-earned
yeah,
money, where they transform their sweat into blood and whatnot, or blood into sweat. Otherwise, I
yeah.
don't
Blood into
know.
sweat.
And it is not told very. Sometimes it's told very overtly, but subtly they always put it that the children has to be aware of the parents' sacrifice and
Mm.
sufferings in their adulthood, because there were kids, and there are constant reminders of this. But yeah, that's a sad reality, and this is sort of this nudge. If you look at this behavioral science, this is always in the kids' mind, and they think the parents have done so much for them, and that, I mean, probably I say this vice versa love. It
Yeah.
exists because of this as well, because there is some nudge happening in the
Yeah.
unconscious.
And to an extent, some
Um,
of them really do. Like, I mean, I know for a fact that, um, sometimes, I mean, it's not the trophy parent, not the trophy parent, but otherwise, parents do recognize the strength and weaknesses of the child and then make sure that weakness is like, overcome when they're fairly young, give them the right sense of direction.
mm,
I know I would have end up a lot more
yeah,
worse if I wasn't put in the right classes at that right time, though I hated it at the time. Yeah, on hindsight.
right.
But yeah, the trophy thing is quite, I think it's just filled with vanity. It's just to show that
Yeah.
that's shit.
Next is Indian way of living. And so we know that there are 4 stages: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastham, and sannyasam, right? So for the audience, brahmacharya is where you gain all the knowledge, collect in information, you learn different skills
And
and
you're
whatnot.
celibate.
Grihastha, yeah, you're a celibate as well. And then grihastha is where you try to settle down, use all the knowledge that you have gained to put that into use for something productive, I suppose. And that's when you get married as well, and then you form that grihastha way of living, where you are a family man, basically, or a family woman, right? Um, and that goes on for some time, and then you get to vanaprastha stage, where you are slowly detaching from the material world, and then finally you go into this sannyasa phase, where you move out of your household and then try to unite with the absolute, the oneness and whatnot. So this is the 4 phases of Indian way of living. So the question is, for young ones, at what age does the brahmacharya stop and the grihastha begin? Is 30 the magic number, right? And for parents, what age should vanaprastha and sannyasa start? Uh, you know what I mean? But it seems like they have fixed that 30 number, but they never detach from their children. What, on the contrary, what they try to do is they try to attach their own meaning of life to their children and their grandchildren. So they don't know how to detach from the material world and then seek something else, like seek the meaning of life elsewhere, or try to unite with the absolute, which is the sannyasa phase. This is not happening. Perhaps this used to happen when these scriptures were written, but right now it's not. And if 30 is that magic number for young people, then everything makes sense. But that's not defined. It's rather a floating number, isn't it? So, but if there is parents trying to fix that
You
number,
know,
so that seems to
again,
be one of the problems,
it
and
is.
probably
It
the
is.
explanation.
And again, I've spoken about this also in great detail with some of these erudite scholars of religion. Um, and what I've gathered through the years is that what is more dangerous than not knowing the scriptures is partially knowing the scriptures, right? And of course, this thing of oh, it's got to be brahmacharya, it's got to be grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa is gone. People go around beating this, but then they forget the four purusharthas which are superimposed on these four stages, which is dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So
Yeah.
that brahmacharya phase is where you gather all dharma, where you know what dharma is, and you have an understanding of the world, morality, what is right, what is wrong. And then in grahasthashram is where you focus on artha, where you build economic wealth, prosperity, because economics or wealth is what artha sustains dharma. So dharma becomes that base through which you power artha, and then
Hmm.
in vanaprastha you start leaving kama, which is all your desires, your lust, your greed, all of that is given away, you detach. And then sannyasa is for moksha. So when I talk
Yeah.
to sannyasis even now deep in the Himalayas, what when in their interactions with society, what they've told me very frankly is that people have forgotten what vanaprastha is. So they live a life of 50-50, brahmacharya grahastha. So you have people who are 70 years old
Indeed.
who are in love with the other person in a very physical way, which is not a bad thing. I'm not anybody to judge, but the thing is you forget what stage of life you're in. At 70 you want to live at the thing that you're 35. I mean, you can be my guest, do that in all means, but how long will you do it? You'll cause more conflict. What a person is supposed to do in vanaprastha is give away all responsibilities, active responsibilities. Let's say you were running a company, a family business. Now you let the son or the daughter run it, and what you are is just a person who they would come for in a term of crisis. You don't manage it day to day. You're slowly detaching, and that detachment eventually leads to the point where you just want to detach from everything and pursue one single thing. But I think so.
That's 100%. It's a beautiful thing that you have just mentioned. To be
Yeah,
honest, it's really beautiful how you put it together. Uh, right in at 70, if you are still in grahastha, then probably you will never attain
yeah,
moksha
yeah.
in it. So you'll be stuck
Correct.
somewhere because it takes time
Yeah,
to
yeah.
detach because that's sort of a hard thing,
Yeah, and
isn't
it's
it?
not just I'm not just talking about
Uh,
physical or sexual desire. Even that detachment, that when you're 70, that you still want to check your bank account. You still want to check how your factory is doing. You still want to amass more wealth. So I'm
hmm.
talking about that feeling of, oh, not enough, more aggrandization, more collection and hoarding than giving up and detachment. Yeah, yeah, it's yeah,
100%.
it's crazy.
Nice. Next is society and conformity versus individuality. I mean, this we have spoken many
Mm.
times, but India is it is the society tends towards conformity, and then there is the societal values. And one thing is everyone keeps their value system. So life in itself is hard, and everyone needs value and recognition. And then that's why at the end of the year, you look towards appraisal and see what your ratings are, what is the percentage of hike that you're getting, and whatnot. Um, but then also, you get a little later in the life, you are trying to get validated by the society and the people around you. This sort of keeps them going for parents, especially. Like we spoke about how they are afraid of the relatives in society, right? Because they sort of think that they are getting validated by society, and it kind of keeps them going. Um, um, but children live in a different generation and world, and then they have their own individual identity. So, especially with as you say, the common phrase, the world is in your palms because of internet and the connectivity that we have. So individuality is becoming a much more of a thing in the country. And as I said, the child's character and beliefs outgrows their parents and the community. So obviously that's kind of the when you look from their perspective, the child will be a black sheep. And also they call it being westernized, but not just west. In many parts in the east you have individuality as a belief. um, so that's one thing. So this conflicting ideologies like conformity and individuality is one of the reasons why there is such conflict and toxicity around the point in marriage. Next one's lies. This is a pet peeve of mine. It says, parents in society say all you need to do is study well for 10th and
12th.
12th
10th and
grade.
12th.
And then what? Yeah, then once you finish it, you're sorted. And then you're like, oh, now you're in degree. It's very important because this gives you the job and money, whatnot. So once you finish it, you're sorted. Then you move on to this beautiful, colorful life which you have always dreamt of. You get there, you focus on your job, blah blah blah. Quick, 25, get married, done. Wait, hang on. Where is the cloud nine that you promised when I was 12? And this, then by then it's too late because you have already bought into the lie and then you have fallen victim. So, and then obviously you remember things from your childhood, and when these things are promised and you don't get it, and then you eventually think, oh, such lies. And then that's something which triggers rather unhealthy relationship. Then this obvious ones like physical aspects. How we have gurus for everything: love guru, sex guru, relationship guru, this, that. People are uncomfortable about touchy subjects. Yeah, so that's I mean, this is this again we can kind of link it to education and society, which you already spoke about. That's pretty much it from the reasons or understanding section. Next, unless you have anything to add, we will move on to solutions. Possibly.
Oh yeah, no, before solutions, I wanted to touch base on eugenics. Remember when we spoke about this whole social engineering?
Yeah.
This patriarchal society or whatnot. See, like even if you look at the study of caste in India, and you look at the study of similar structures in ancient Greece, it's quite similar. You had those philosopher kings, you had the philosophers, you had the kings, you had the workmen or the businessmen, and then you had the slaves. So the classification of societies into different strata was, I think, the most easiest way to manage a collective, because we went on from becoming more than a tribe to an actual functioning society. There is an argument, I don't know, again, I don't know how well it stands the test of things because there's more to be studied on. There is an argument that level of social engineering or eugenics is what gave India and ancient civilizations the brightest of people, like Aryabhatta or like Bhaskaracharya and all of that, because you were considered to be in each strata based on your merit, not by birth. So if you were a seeker of intellectual pursuits and noble thoughts, you were supposed to be the philosopher or the Brahmin in the philosopher in Greece, and like say the Brahmin in the Indian caste system. If you had this affinity towards governance, statecraft, and you had public policy, and that was your interest, then you would be considered to be a king, or like within that army of the forces, the military and whatnot. And if you had this unique knack for business, you would be, basically you were segregated into all of these castes based on merit that you displayed, not by sheer birth. But I think somewhere that because the outcomes were good, I think they started confining it within those circles, which eventually degraded a lot. So I think Sigmund Freud's nephew had written this book on eugenics or social engineering, where they tried this, I think 1800s 1900s ish. So I think there is some level of positive outcomes from it, but not in a way where it can be a perverse idea to deny something. Like even with an arranged marriage, when you think of it, let's say I'm not in love and I want to be in an arranged marriage, I can obviously think about economic outcomes, right? Not just from my self-interest, from the woman's self-interest as well. Now, let's say I had a farmland of 2 acres, and right next to my farmland was another farmland of 2 acres, and then I was a son and there was a daughter. I think that union was good because now together the family owns 4 acres of land. So it's the same thing that happened with royalty in the past. It was to expand owned territory. It was to expand more territory and more control. So I think the idea of a better prospect, not just from a physical standpoint, but an economical and an intergenerational standpoint, is definitely a thing when it comes to arranged marriage. I think it's going to be fundamental when it comes to it. Like, you either want to be married to your equal, if not more. You know, so I think these things are quite fundamental to that principle of marriage in itself, at least arranged marriage.
Yeah.
So I think,
yeah, it runs quite deep into the system and the society. And talk about eugenics, and then it worked well until the exploitation.
correct. When
right?
it becomes, anything becomes perverse. Yeah, anything becomes perverse, and you can see the decline and the downfall of it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think when you sort of compare this Greek, the parallels between Greek and Indian societies, early societies or ancient societies, right? And sort of in the West, what has changed is towards that time, like the age of enlightenment, or age of like reason, as you call. That's when things changed, and then society became much more of a level playing field, because you mentioned these eminent personalities who were able to become such because of eugenics. And in the West, that sort of stopped when after Renaissance and then the age of scientific revolution and age of enlightenment, right? So everything became a level playing field, and that's how it is supposed to be. I mean, but it has not happened in India yet. If you think about it, it's still a major problem. But then again, India is a very ancient civilization.
Yeah. I think,
and it has not gone through this
and down,
ups and downs like as frequent as what you have
That's
seen
true.
in the
That's true.
West. So probably that's one of the
and
reasons.
I think this,
If you wait enough,
I think this frequency is probably just a glitch in that continuum of civilization. What we're going through right now. The past 250 years can.
It's again like it's much more of a sedentary civilization, isn't it? At the moment, it's a very laid back civilization. They've seen everything. Indians are not very hands on things. They don't like tinkering. Rather, they like thinking.
Yes.
And my guru used to say that there are places near to my hometown which is very peaceful, calm, quiet, nice. People get on with their daily lives, and probably they have not heard about the Second World War or the atom bomb, right? So that's the sort of civilization that we are talking about. But what happened was the disturbance in force came when internet came along. Now it's much more of a connected world, right? So yeah, cool.